Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hidden Pearls podcast. We are very excited because we have a wonderful special guest today that has kind of danced in and out of our lives for the past 5 years, and now is having quite a role. So, Bruce and I are joined with Melanie St. George's, and Melanie is kind of kicking off our series of the Women of Yoga. And we're going to get into this more, but women and just the divine feminine has been such a nurturing and guiding light, calling both of us to yoga and back to yoga and guiding us through the hard, sticky places. And what we keep coming up and meeting are just these pinnacle, badass women who have stuck it out, who have created a culture, and who have just created this incredible healing sort of portal or energy or place, a sanctuary for people to come and get to know themselves better and heal and shift the narrative of their own lives. And so, Melanie, we are so excited and honored to have you joining us on the Hidden Pearls podcast. So thank you and welcome aboard.
Well, thanks for inviting me to be part of it. I have been checking it out for about the last year, and so I'm excited to actually join you. It's great to see Emma again, and yeah, I'm excited.
All right, Bruce, how do we know Melanie? Tell her who is Melanie to you right now? Give us the guide.
Well, she's a little bit, she's kind of the mysterious one on high that you hear about, but you don't quite get to see her or hear from her too much, which is our shortcoming. And unfortunately, the circumstances for her, because I know she's in Denver now with her husband who's just gone through treatment dealing with cancer. And so our hearts and thoughts and prayers are with her. And so we appreciate you very much taking time. So I started my 200-hour yoga teacher training after looking for about 3 years. I kind of wanted to do it in COVID, and then everything got shut down. And then everything went to online, and I'm just so tired of being online. I know we are, but that's, but I didn't want to, and I had signed up for one, and I was looking for kind of, because we do some work with veterans and other groups, and so kind of trauma informed and all that. But then I stumbled across Blissful Spirits hot yoga, and then I had this vague recollection. I go, Emmy, when you were Santa Fe, Albuquerque, you had a little experience there. So anyway, checked it out. It's a bunch of weekends down there. I'm in Santa Fe, so there's a bit of driving, and I traveled, but it's all going to work out. And so that's all been great. So you were able to join us one afternoon via TV, kind of, or computer, whatever we did. And that was great. It was really fun to hear you and Denise kind of bounce off each other with kind of different approaches and how you teach things and listen to your cues and all that. So Melanie, for me, is kind of the founder of Blissful Spirits Hot Yoga in Albuquerque. And I would just say this, and we were talking before we got recording, some of the studios that we've had the very pleasure and joy and honor to be a part of, they really are such a community. There's just grounded in love and, as Emma said, healing. And that's really the sense that Blissful Spirits also has. So anyway, and I know that you two know each other from way before that, but that's kind of mine. And so we're looking forward to when you can join us. That would be great. And, Denise is doing an amazing job, and Chris is there. So he's kind of filling in and doing his thing. And so it's kind of fun. We've got, some different voices that'll be joining us. So the training's going great. It's only more inspired me to figure out how to heal my own body and self and all that stuff. And then to kind of share that. And that's kind of the journey that we're on with Hidden Pearls anyway. So that's at least my cue of it. And so I'm very grateful that you're able to take time with us, and looking forward to hearing more of your story. Emma, what about you? You guys know each other from a ways
Anyway.
back.
That was a really long-winded way to say that. Bruce has signed up for Melanie's 200-hour teacher training, and I used to teach at Blissful Spirit. Like, that's what we're trying to get to. So when I was living in New Mexico, I was teaching at Blissful Spirits, and Melanie just took me under her wing and was like, get over here. You need a community. Taught the best Yin Yoga classes I've ever taken to this day. Like, I still think about your classes. I had so much fun at Blissful. And so when we were looking for a studio for Pops, this just seems so aligned. So you have gone from teaching me to now teaching my father. And so we're just super, super grateful. So Melanie, let's get to know you a little better. So where do we even start? So why don't you just tell us a little bit about Blissful Spirits and the studio and kind of what it is to you and what it means to you?
Yeah, it's interesting to be away from it, because it turns 15 years old, the first studio, and now I have 3. And I've always been like this big part of it. And my husband had to come up to Denver for a bone marrow transplant. And so now I'm kind of the invisible person, right? But Blissful Spirits was something that kind of happened to me when I was just having sold my bar that I owned for 8.5 years, just knowing that this is not what I want to do anymore. Um, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do, but pretty quickly I found out that what I wanted to do every single day was yoga. And it was just really hard to get to the yoga studio. My children were pretty young. And so I'd have to drop my son off and go through all this crazy traffic to get to one of the only two hot yoga studios in town. In basically, it was 2008 at the time. And so pretty soon I was like, man, we need a yoga studio in my part of town. Like there isn't one. And I started like counting the tiles and seeing how big the room was and just kind of trying to manifest it. But I hadn't been doing yoga very long. I had spent 30 years in the bar business, 8.5 running a bar, which is a really hard business to run. And so then I decided, well, I'm going to open a hot yoga studio. And everybody's like, you can't open a yoga studio. Like, you're not the perfect yogi, right? I hadn't been doing yoga for 10, 20. I'd only been doing yoga for less than a year when I decided to open it. It was about like year anniversary when I went to training. So it was this crazy whim. I didn't know like any teachers that wanted to teach for me. I didn't know any students that would come. I just decided if you build it, they will come. And I went off to training and I was building it while I was in training. Like, ooh, I better pass. And I went to, and Jimmy Barkin is not an easy person to train with, but somehow I got through it and went back and opened Blissful Spirits. And at first it was just me. I taught by myself. It was the original studio was half its size, and within a year, it doubled in size. And within 2 years, I opened a second one. And then just this year, I didn't ever really want a third one, but I decided I wanted this one. So I opened the third one. And I was right. If you build it, they will come. It was really a good area to put one up in. And I think it's evolved into a place where teachers can be themselves. I don't micromanage. So I haven't always been successful with somebody coming out of state and saying, I want to teach for you. But Emma was this one that just caught on really quickly, like, whoa. She wasn't there very long and she moved on because she's a go-getter. But we were super excited to have her. We've always missed her. And it's just this beautiful integration of really great, exceptional people that have the freedom to teach the way they want to without me going in and saying, maybe you should do that or do that. I don't do that on purpose. And they have just blossomed and thrived and created this space for me and with me. Yeah. I am not the star. I just kind of lead the group, and I think it's the freedom that they get to be the stars, and I don't want to suppress them. My father, I was a ballet dancer when I was younger, said you can't own the ballet and be the prima ballerina. And so I lived by that, let the other people shine and just, do the best I can as well. And this really worked for me. I don't think I was born to teach yoga, but I was born to own Blissful Spirits. And I have so many people that were born to do what they do. I just kind of stand back and let them thrive.
Well, okay. Well, no great painting is very good without the canvas it's painted on.
Correct.
And there's an art to making sure the canvas is right and tight and all that kind of thing. And so there's still an art form in that. So creating the space for people to be themselves and to have that comfort and love and healing is still quite a gift. So that's pretty good. I've got a bunch of questions, but Emmy, roll in. I don't want to, if you want to say any more about your time.
No,
there.
I think what you said about like, I am not the star. I think you are one of the stars, but I think Blissful Spirits, the thing that like really, and I feel like in other yoga studios I've gone to, and not to say like other yoga studios have been like boring or anywhere, but there's this like concentric vibe. And I think the vibe of Blissful Spirits is like everyone is so different. And like there is such shining stars who are like so expressive and so different. And I had never seen so many yogis like covered in tattoos and like just like rock and roll while also teaching yoga. And I think that was really eye-opening for me in like people are just being themselves and sharing that, and the community loves it, you know? And I think for me that was such a way to like start to express myself on a different way and like see that I can be a little bit more eccentric, you know, and share those parts of myself and see it get celebrated. So that was a very nurturing experience for me also.
Yeah, I think that there's so many yoga studios where people are intimidated to go in because you should be a yogi and you should maybe be vegan, maybe you should never have a drink, and all these like expectations. And so Blissful Spirits is kind of this place where real people, tattooed, whatever, they come and do yoga. They don't, there's no expectations. So they just get to the freedom to find the healing without feeling insecure that they should be something other than they are. And it's really worked. People tell me they go all through the country looking for blissful spirits type yoga. I think it's, these people are allowed to compete with each other, but also to love each other. And they really thrive in the environment, and the students just love it. And it's very diverse with the classes. And I had a Bikram student come over and he said, Bikram taught the same class every day. Every teacher taught the same class. And then I went to your studio, and not only did no teacher teach alike, but no teacher taught the same class twice, And so that's kind of a cool feature that we have, is that everybody's always changing stuff. And so you're always on your toes.
Agreed. Completely.
I think the other thing too is there's a great comfort level, and I don't know if it's just Albuquerque or maybe it's an evolutionary thing too but I'm thinking about women's bodies issues particularly, but just this open and inclusive, welcoming, like whatever, whoever you are, whatever your body. And I think you had that in your bio, everybody, but it's like everybody, but everybody, literally,
Right.
The body part is caps, because, we're not the perfect yogis, and all that kind of stuff in the way that you might think they're going to look or behave, or the things that you're able to do and all that kind of thing. And so just being able to get on your mat and be coached through it and just go with the heat. And, for me, it's all about mat, body, and breath. I try to get my head out of it and just kind of flow with it. And there's such a gift there when you can do that and just kind of surrender everything to it. And it's a great environment for that. I went to the neon one or the black light one at night.
Right. Those are fun.
It was like a 9 o'clock on a Saturday. And because I was in for the 200 hours. So my day was over, and I thought, well, I'll go get another class in, because you got to have 56 or whatever it is. So I didn't know if anybody would be there. It was packed.
Yeah.
And I think the blue light thing was kind of like, because you really, unless you were wearing lighter clothes that reflected if you had black on, like
Right.
you couldn't even be seen in the room. It was like
Right.
you're invisible. And
You want to hide, right? Yeah.
yeah, it was really cool that way. So anyway, no, I think that whole thing's pretty cool. So, well, I guess the question I kind of like, how is it? What was going on in your head? What was it about yoga? Like you said, it was about 1 year into it, and you said, I got to open a studio, which is a great jump. And one, I just want to say too, like when I hear that from you, I do hear a woman though who had command of a business, who knew how to run a bar, a restaurant. You've been in cash sales before, so it wasn't like brand new for you. Now, what you were selling was going to be different, but still, you had this confidence about you, which I think really resonates. And when you meet you and talk to you, that really comes out. That you got a little savvy to you, which is pretty cool. So I think there's that presence also that helps kind of solidify Blissful. But what was it when you're on your mat and you're just starting out that, what was it that was so transformative about yoga in those early days for you that you go, I got to do this every day? Like, what was it about yoga that really tripped for you?
Yeah. Well, when I started yoga, I was really in this place in life where I had given up who I was, right? I had successfully owned a bar. I sold my business for over $1 million. Most people can't make a year in the restaurant business. I made it 8.5. I sold it and made some money. But then I was going out like looking for jobs and getting interviewed and going, God, I really don't want this job. No, I was like going into casinos, the Albuquerque airport, almost getting hired, and then kind of blowing it. and then every day, like I wasn't really looking for jobs because I was doing yoga. And I have an example of how yoga changed me. I was super stressed when at the end of owning the bar. I didn't like what I did anymore, and I was not in the best relationship, and I wasn't the happiest person. And I remember I was going every single day, right? I hadn't decided to open one yet. And one day I decided not to go. And my son was probably 6. And it was stressful because I dropped him off at school, and you weren't allowed to drop him off till 20 till 9. And I'd have to get across town, and they locked their doors. It was still a Bikram studio at 9 o'clock, and the door was locked. And if traffic was right, it was fine. But if anything went wrong, right? If he was running late, if I was running late. And so one day I just didn't want to deal with the stress, and I decided to not go. And my little 6-year-old son said, Mom, do you remember how you were before you started yoga? Mom, get your clothes on. You're going to yoga. And that was one of the light bulbs. Like, it really changed and calmed me, my personality. And I really got that. Like, and after that, I never skipped a day. I went every day, every day, every day. I really just didn't want to go work for somebody else. And my father, who fully supported me in the bar because it was a business I knew, he's like, you can't do this. And I'm like, well, Dad, it's still people. And I think I already ran the hardest business in New Mexico to own is a bar. And I got to sell it. I did well with it. I think that I can do a yoga studio. It's still people. It's just the differences in a bar. If somebody gets laid off or fired, they're either going to go to a bar or they're going to go do yoga, right? They're going to either drink away their misery or they're going to go and heal themselves, right? And so I just went to the other side. I went to the bright side. Yeah.
A bit of a pendulum swing,
Yeah, it was
like
a big swing.
like being in,
Yeah,
like being in and then like around alcohol and like the pain
right.
part of it, like what you were saying is like people are looking to avoid, right? They're looking to fix pain, they're looking to get out of the pain, they're looking to find connection, and so there's a lot of different pathways to do it. But like you said, there's kind of a light swing and a dark swing to it. So
Right.
that's
But
interesting how you
they're
were like,
trying
all right, we're
to
going the other way.
Yeah, they're trying to avoid either way. One is
Uh-huh.
healthy, one is not, right? So yeah. So it just
All
seemed
right, so
like I already knew people, and I knew how to run a business, and one thing I was absolutely sure of was we needed one right where I put it. And we did. It did really well really quickly.
the OG Blissful Spirits one.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Well, and what was the status of yoga in Albuquerque in that time frame? So would you say that was like 2000
So
what?
15 years ago.
yeah, it was 2009, and there was 2 hot yoga studios. One was Bikram, and one had just gone from Bikram to Barkin, but still fixed flow. Barkin method is a fixed flow. Jimmy Barkin was Bikram's senior teacher, and then he added like a vinyasa style to it, but it was still very fixed. And then there was maybe 2 or 3, possibly 4 unheated yoga studios in town that were really much slower than it was. And so I was the yoga studio that first went off of the fixed flow, right? For hot yoga, everybody was following somebody else's sequence, and some of the teachers that helped me build it was like, we want to do something different. I'm like, okay, let's do something different. And we all started to slowly break away from the Barkin method and do something different. Yeah, and it really worked.
Yeah. Well, for those who are listening, if you're not a yogi, we're going to encourage you to become one. But the Bikram method and the Hot 26, and how rigid that whole thing is and all that. There is a beauty to it, and I've done plenty of those classes and all that kind of stuff. But I would say if the other 2 hots, and you were the first hot to kind of go vinyasa free flow, that was a pretty radical thing to do. Even it's only 15 years ago, but still, that was a pretty transformative time because across the United States, that was really the predominant way in which yoga was being kind of expressed or transformed across the states as it was trying to grow. And so to kind of break from that took a lot. So kudos to you for you have been following the kind of the intuition of your staff and everybody. So that's pretty cool. More courage. Courageous bar women. Where would we be without them? I love it.
I think I
Okay.
was given a lot of courage and a lot of knowledge from my father, who's a really brilliant man. Yeah, so he didn't like the idea, but I'm like, well, I got the money from the bar, which he strongly helped me get,
Yeah.
and I'm going to do it. It worked. It really worked. Yeah.
So
Cool.
is he a yogi now?
My father died in 2020. Yeah, so he was 94. I'm the youngest of 6 kids. So yeah, but he went to Yale. He was brilliant. He was a very he was a very wonderful mentor for me, and strongly had my back once I said I'm going to. I don't need your money. I'm going to do this. Let's
Right.
go. And he helped me find the place. He came out and we picked the place, and he strongly had my back again. And whenever things were going wrong, I called my dad. Yeah. So I miss him a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
You know
good to
how
have somebody like that in the corner. Well,
Yeah.
very good. Well, then, Em, jump in anytime. I'm just kind of, you got something else? Or are you flowing or?
Why did you name it Blissful Spirits?
Well, that also comes from the bar, if you think about it. My property holding company was Happy Spirits for the bar. And I just I fretted over the name for a long time. And like just when I would go to sleep, I would dream like if you build it, they would come because I was scared. It was scary. Um, I also kind of was drifting off to sleep. I'm like, Happy Spirits, Blissful Spirits. And so it was just a play on spirits, right? Because again, both, alcohol is a spirit and yoga lifts spirits. So yeah,
Mm, I
that's
Cool.
love it. I
um,
mean,
I love
also, and like the just like the and I think this is kind of the Western lineage of yoga, right? Where it's like male, like a lot of guys will come over and teach you how to do it. And like, this is the way, and I am the master. And obviously, there's been a lot of toxic masculinity situations around that, but I think that's another reason why we wanted to do this series is because like through all of that and through the kind of patriarchal lineage of like this is what it has to be, there are so many women who have said that's not what feels good,
right,
and that's not what it has to be, and just because it doesn't look like what you said I have to do, like it doesn't mean it's wrong, and I
right,
think that's
right,
the wisdom of women, like, and men too, they know they have it, but is holding space for things that look different and feel different and are different.
right. Well, my partner in the training, which Bruce has spent, George has, Bruce has spent, sorry, that's your son's name. Bruce has spent time with. Her training purposely started from the left, and it was 2 women and 1 man. But the man was the spiritual end, and the women that were teaching the yoga purposely started it from the left because from India, the men came over and they taught us yoga. And then again, the women took it and ran. In India, it was a very men only thing for
Yeah,
centuries, right? And so Denise's training, they started everything on the left to honor the woman, but we start on the right because I honor my lineage. But
I
yes,
love it.
yeah,
Yeah.
And you should explain what you mean by starting on the right and left. I mean, I know because we've had that conversation, but like explain to
right.
people what you mean by
So
starting on the right and left because it's
when
kind of
you
cool.
step forward or you step back, or when you start a sequence, we start on the right side. Um, and in Denise's training, they trained her to start on the left, and you can start any side you want, right? But most of the time, when I begin a sun salutation or a moon salutation, I begin by stepping the right foot forward. Yes, so that's what I mean when I say you start. You
Yep.
start your movement on the right side, and you finish on the left.
Right. Honoring either the yin or the yang as we
Right.
kind of deal with the masculine and the feminine and all that kind of stuff. So, well, just to note, you see the whiteboard behind me?
Mm-hmm.
That is the Blissful Spirits Flow 1, Part A and B. Well, it's the warm up. That's the warm up, the sun
Right.
salutation,
Right.
Flow 1, A and B, Flow 2, A and B, and then Flow 3. So that's all the cues. So every day, at least once a day, I go through the whole thing because I'm trying to
Good.
learn all my sequences. So I have another week yet to get back. But anyway, so
Yeah.
that's my little cheat sheet as I'm going through. So
That's
now I'm
really
kind of remembering all the cues. But anyway,
Yeah. When
So
I went to
there's,
training, I had little cards that you could print from like Bikram. You could get all the poses, and I would have a little flashcard for my Sanskrit. Right, the front
yeah.
would have a pose, and the back I'd have to put out the Sanskrit because that was something I knew before I got there. So it was my little trick. Yeah, there you go.
And
I,
they have all the Sanskrit on it with pronunciations.
good, good.
It's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
Such a good little student.
yeah.
Well, if you're going to take the class, you might as well take the class. So it's all
Right.
good. All right. Well, let's see.
So,
Go ahead, Em.
so I just wanted like because obviously when you're starting something out and you're like, if they build it, they will come. Like, yes, the big concept of that is awesome and clear. But along the way, right, there are some bumps in the road as you are building things out. Like,
Oh
what's our
yeah.
message going to be? Like, who are we going to stand for? Like, what are the types of classes? And I'm sure anything else. So, can you maybe walk us through, like, as you were developing the culture of Blissful Spirits and, like, kind of influencing and shaping the culture of Albuquerque and New Mexico yoga as well? Like, what was kind of your North Star through all of this?
You know what? I just listened. Uh, Kelly Carpenter, who is our hot Pilates phenom,
Hmm.
she's phenomenal. She's, I think, probably one of the best teachers in the country. She's really
Yeah.
good at what she does. I hadn't heard of hot Pilates. She brought Pilates Caliente. She comes in one day when I'm expanding double the size. Why don't we bring hot Pilates in? And the two teachers that said, why don't we just start to go like off this fixed vinyasa that we were teaching? And as people came to me, I would take a chance. It doesn't always work. I took a chance with Emma, brought her in. Didn't really know her, but I knew she was beautiful and had just a powerful personality. And it just evolved by listening, like listening to people's ideas. Sculpt was something that they were doing in California and Colorado, but nobody taught sculpt. And then Yin, which was the thing that calmed me down even more. You know, was not taught anywhere in Albuquerque, especially a hot yoga studio on a weekly basis. You could find like a set series that would go for 4 to 6 weeks, but you couldn't find a every Wednesday class. And I wanted an every Wednesday class, so why not just bring it to the studio? A man came in and started to teach it and left within months, I think. And so then I started to teach it, so just like following like what my teachers suggested and also things that I thought were a good idea. It was just an evolution. There was a synchronicity to people's ideas and the energy we created together that it just worked. When I owned a bar, it took me 3.5 years to fully buy it. Right, there was all these complications. It took me 2.5 years to sell it, and it was always like swimming upriver. And owning the yoga studio, it just flows. I got to swim with the river rather than trying to be a salmon running upriver. Right, it just flows most of the time. It hasn't always been perfect. There's been some hard times. If it was that easy, everybody would have one. I've gone through some, 2020 itself was really difficult, being shut down for 4 months, but also we had 15 months of construction on Paseo in 2013, and I had just opened the Rio Rancho studio. So Paseo is a major throughway in Albuquerque, and then Rio Rancho is a little town. And so you depend on the first business to carry the second business, and the first business is so locked behind construction that I had to go back and bartend for a year while I owned the two studios and taught 16 classes. I was up until 3 or 4 every morning and teaching my 8 o'clock class the next day. Yeah. So you do what you have to, right? And my dad's like, you can't bartend. I'm like, well, I don't know what else I'll do. There's only one more thing I can cut before I go bankrupt, and that's my pay. And so I went and made money to feed myself and my children at a bar. So you do what you have to. You get through the hard times. And after that, I made sure every penny I made was like still in my bank account. And that's how I got through 2020. I had pretty, I knew studios, they had $10,000, $20,000 in the bank account. I had a pretty good bank account, but I went through $75,000 in 4 months because, I had the best year I ever had, and the IRS still wanted their money in July. And it was pretty crazy. Yeah. So you have hard times, but most of the time it just flowed. It was just something that worked, listening to people's ideas and saying, sure, let's try it. If it doesn't work, we get rid of it. But most of the time it did work.
Yeah, well, they say we learn twice as much by listening, if not more, than by talking, because we already know what we're going to say. And so if we can be quiet, but that too is a gift, being able to create an atmosphere where people can come in and say, hey, what do you think about this or that? And not being judgmental about it and being open to the possibilities. And like you said, it doesn't always work, but if people feel affirmed in their creativity and their spontaneity and their intuition, all of that kind of carries over. So that's pretty cool. And I guess too, I just want to make sure the affirmations there for, I just don't think people appreciate anytime you're running your own business, and particularly a small one, and things come up like that, how hard it is and all the things you have to do, and
Right.
how hard it work to get to be able to stay in this business. You know what I mean? Because it's, there is, people do make money, and there are some people making a lot of money, but yet, there are some limits to it and all that kind of stuff. So there are a lot of sacrifices that go on to make all that kind of stuff happen. So, okay, Emmy, more? You got another one or not? You're
Yeah.
okay. Go.
Okay, so your and I haven't been to Blissful in a few years, so I'll just say that. But I have a very vivid memory of it.
I
And I know
know.
Bruce is there all the time. The fluctuations of Blissful Spirit where it's like so hot, like y'all taught me what a hot yoga class really was.
Right.
Like that heat, and I think also just like living in the desert and like you're at what, like 7,000 feet, like you're just up there and the oxygen's a little bit thinner. Like it is a trippy process to go through one of those classes and like the energy that it takes and it brings up. So you have that, like such an extreme class. And then you have these yin classes. And I know we keep bringing this up, but you taught yin in such a different and grounded way than I've ever experienced. And also like the yin yang classes. But could you maybe like what is kind of your teaching philosophy like as you prep for a class, or like when you think about like what you're going in to offer people, like how do you process that? Like what's your kind of framework as you go into a class?
And explain what yin is for people that don't know.
So yin yoga,
Melanie, take it away, girl.
yeah, yin yoga is not a workout, it's a work in. And I think all yoga is a work in, but yin yoga especially, because you lay on the floor and you get in a pose, and we'll give you pillows, which we call bolsters, and blocks and straps, and we'll get you as comfortable as we can. But yin yoga is gravity, opening up your fascia, your tendons, your ligaments, so your drier plastics of the body. And so you get in a pose and you stay in it anywhere from 2 to 5, 10 minutes. And you hold it. And so there's a lot of patience to be found. We do it warm, and it wasn't meant to be warm. So, we do it about 85. So you're not sweating. You're not supposed to be warmed up, because if your muscles are warm, you can't access the fascia. And it's very meditative. It's very, at first, like I I hated the class. Like, it was not my personality to go slow, but
Yeah.
also to be in postures that I distinctly disliked, like pigeon, which is called swan in Yin, or happy baby, which is only babies are happy holding their feet for 5 minutes, right? Um, you really you learn a lot about yourself, and you really have to sink into your breath and be present. Or because if you panic, which is what I did my first 2 times I did yoga, I was actually really angry after my first class. There's a lot of anger in my fascia and my joints, which is what you're opening in Yin Yoga. So you open up a lot of fascia, which is where we store our trauma, and a lot of it came burning out of me that first class, and I was like, I thought it was the worst thing ever. In the second class, I was just like, the whole right side. I'm like, oh no, I have to do the left side for 5 minutes. Both times it was all hips. And I've had 2 hip
Mhm.
replacements, right? So I had some distinct hip issues anyway. And I was just like in this panic all through. And somewhere through the class, I was like, oh, if I just slow down my breath and not think about it, I'll get through it faster. And when I got out of that second class, I hadn't been that calm in years. And I just was like, this is what's missing. Hot yoga is very fight or flight, the extreme heat, right?
Mhm.
It can be very fight or flight. And yin yoga can be fight or flight, but if you allow it to be, it's just a long hold meditation where you just let go of panic, let go of fear, and let go of trauma that you have been carrying around for perhaps decades, right? And it really worked for me. There was a whole lot of stuff that came up that first year of yin yoga that hot yoga never got rid of for me. And so it was really life changing for me and has honed me to a different person. I used to be fairly easy in those years when I started 2012, 2013. I had a teenage daughter. Didn't take her 5 seconds to get me going, right? She knew how to push my buttons. And, mother daughter relationships can be fraught for sure. And then, a couple years later, the relationship wasn't better, but she could rarely push a button, right? It was the yin yoga that had changed my reaction time to really, I didn't have reactions. I could more mindfully act. Yeah.
Well, that opens up a big door. I mean, that's kind of where we live, working on teaching mindfulness and all that kind of stuff. With that, I will say one of the things, I guess it just circles me back because when I talked to Denise about the class, and part of this is, in the 10 years, so I've gone from 55 or 54, whatever, to 50 or 65 now. So over those years, yoga has traveled with me. In the beginning, the superheated, all that kind of fast stuff. But then, yoga for me, yoga took me to my breath, and then
Right.
my breath really took me to my body. And then the deeper I got those things, and it's just like, the first time you do forward fold, you can't barely touch your, whatever it is. And
Right.
the body always has more to give. And it's the same thing when you learn about your breath. It's the same thing. There's always deeper and deeper levels. And so as yoga took me to the breath and then started to combine that with the body, like this journey kind of took off about it. You know what I mean? And I really got away from it. I don't need the cardio workout per se. I mean, I like the heat, like I wrestled in, back in the day and all that. So the heat and everything was great. But then I really, especially the last 5 years, like it's a slower practice for me. I really like holding positions, even if it's a vinyasa, like this whole one breath, one move thing, kind of drives me crazy because like I'm a bigger guy. So my breaths are like I take one and they're taking three, so I'm three moves behind all the time and all that stuff. So I had that conversation with Denise. I go, look, I'm not looking to do an HIT workout yoga format. Like that's not what I'm here for. And then, and I think where the yin really fits in, because the really first, I think, over the top yin class I ever took was with Emma at your studio, and you taught it. And it was like,
Wow.
I walk in, there's all these pads, and all these, I go, what the hell are we doing here? Like, I did something like this. But it was really cool, and it really did. And so that whole process for me has been kind of like, I feel in a way like I'm doing this for myself, the teacher training, but in a way, I kind of want to push back against what people are doing to yoga. I mean, and if it's that's what people want, I mean, it's all good. But I think there's just a deeper opportunity to take that inward journey. Because like when you settle into a pose,
Right.
you've got 3 or 4 or 5 breaths, like your body kind of gets to know it and you get to learn something about your body. And
Right.
ooh, I didn't know my hip was going to do that. Or and it's a different relationship with your body and breath when you slow things down like that and you can kind of sit in it. So anyway, I'm just an advocate for that. And Denise goes, well, I don't know if we're going to go quite that slow, but we will take our time and we're not going to be rushing and all that kind of stuff. So, and it's been great. She's been terrific that way. So I
Well,
really appreciate that.
I teach it very differently. That same flow, I can't do three flows, flow one, two, and three in an hour. I can't do them. It's
Yeah.
impossible because I sit in the pose, right? And I
Yeah.
think that there are different demographics. You've got these young people, they're really in a hurry. Their whole life is rush, rush, accomplish. I got to get this done, that done, this done, that done. And then they come in and they go to vinyasa, and I talk about this in the yin training a lot. They go to vinyasa, but they're living a masculine lifestyle in a masculine world, rush, 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 go, go, go. And then they go and do yoga and they're doing vinyasa, right? And so it's still fight or flight, rush, 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 move with the breath, never sit in anything, and there's no balance, right? And so I try to encourage people like just once a week, do a yin yoga class, and instead of, you know, following the masculine, yin is feminine. That's what yin means, right? It's feminine.
Yep.
Settle down, slow down, work into your body rather than just being in yoga for the workout, because that's what vinyasa has really become, is like who can kick everybody's butt a little bit more. And you do get the work in there, you know, without even knowing it. If you step on a yoga mat and you follow the poses and you stop thinking about your story for because you're trying to keep up for an hour, you still are working in, but you're not slowing down. And so yin yoga is just such a beautiful balance for everyday life, but for all of hot yoga and vinyasa and all of the yan, the gym, all of the things that we do every day. It's just go, go, go. It's the American way. And so they gravitate to vinyasa because that's their personality, but it's not possibly not the best yoga for them, but it's really hard to get an American to settle into a yin class, right? It's just their mindset is go, go. Oh, the
Right.
harder the better. The hotter the better.
Denise, well, actually, Tuesday night, because I did the class Tuesday night with Denise, she actually did the exact series, all three flows. Right, it took her just a little over an hour to get them done,
Right.
and it was quite a work. I mean, it is really a pace to it. But she loves to talk about you can take your Apple Watches off, turn your
Right.
phone,
Right.
quit worrying about how many calories you're burning,
Right.
what your heart rate is, and all that kind of bullshit. You just be there, just be present with your body and between what you experience and your breath. That's all you need to really know.
All you
So
need,
anyway,
right? If you need the workout and you need the hot yoga because you're looking to lose calories, you're still going to benefit from it, right? Because I didn't know what I was getting into when I did it, and I still got so many benefits. But again, the full emotional calming benefits didn't really come until I started the
yeah,
Yin Yoga practice, because you're still trying to endure in a hot class, right? There's endurance involved, and you can have like total release in a yin yoga class. And I am not putting. I own three hot yoga studios, so I'm not trying to put it down, but I am just trying to say that yin is just such a necessary part of of the yoga practice. You know, do 5 vinyasas, but also pull in one yin, or we even have yin yang classes where you start with the yin and then you start to move into the yan portion of the practice.
yeah. Well, the one thing about the yin though is the faster vinyasas, you don't. It's like your mind is always clicking to what next body part has to move, and then you're kind of in that.
Right.
Like in the other one, when you're totally just in the pose, like all you have space for is you're just holding space for you, and that's where then all of a sudden you can hear your breath, you can feel your heart rate, and that's when all the stuff can come up. You know what I mean? Because there's space. You're holding space for yourself in
Right.
those moments, between the poses. And that's anyway. We're digressing terribly. I know. I'm sorry,
No,
but
no,
anyway,
I think that's the whole thing. Like yin teaches you how to sit with your stuff, right? And it
Right.
teaches
Right.
you like I can't rush through this, or like how I mean, I think that's the thing with yoga is like everyone's always like, "Oh, you just need to slow down." And then you're like, What how the hell am I supposed to do that in this day and age with like all the expectations that are on us and like everything going around? Like carving out time to actually slow down is hard,
Right.
And so I think that's where, and just like what you said, there's no wrong style of yoga. And the faster paced, physical, hot vinyasas took me to the meditative side, but it's just this continuous layer of like, can I peel back this? Can I set this down? Can I get more familiar with those uncomfortable parts of myself? And then when you're finally ready, you're in the right class and it's just this final release.
It's a moving meditation, right? Vinyasa is a moving meditation, and you can't be dwelling on your story when you are moving and trying to get this pose, that pose, this pose, that pose. So it's still a meditation, but it's a very active meditation. So I think I do both, right? I do vinyasa, I do yin yang, I do yin. I think they all serve purposes, and And if you only had yin, there'd be a whole lot of Americans not doing any yoga, right? Because they don't know how to slow down. So the
Mhm.
vinyasa is absolutely necessary to get people on their mats. And as they grow, some of them will step into the yin class as well. But the nice thing about yin is when I get a phone call, like, I weigh 200 pounds, or it's dark, it's dark in there. You don't ever have to stand. You don't have to transition. So the older people can come in. It's for every body, as you noticed in my bio. Like, I steer people will come and learn just how to stretch slowly. And then you
Yeah.
can maybe work into the warm and gentle class, and then maybe a hot yoga, and then a vinyasa. Those are the steps, but most Americans will just jump right into the vinyasa, right? And there was no warm classes when I started. There was either unheated classes or Bikram or Barkin at the time. So there was no ability to kind of step your way up. But it's a good process to for some people that would never step on their mat for a vinyasa class. It gets people in, so it's really amazing practice. All of them, they're all good.
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you on that. Um, okay. When I did want to ask you though, as far as the meditation stuff, do you just as a practitioner, because we teach guided meditations and breath work and do all that kind of stuff. What other than the yoga side of it, are you a practitioner of? I know you said something about mindfulness, but what is your kind of breath and meditation practice, if you don't mind just
My
sharing, just to kind of
Most of my meditation comes in my yin practice, right? And
yeah,
so yes, my husband is a Buddhist, and his meditation is mantras and prayers, right?
yeah.
For me, it's mostly settling into postures, which I'll sometimes hold even longer, and just having these brief meditations. I just like most Americans, I guess I don't sit to meditate enough, admittedly. Do
Oh
you?
well,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. We don't should anybody, So we don't should
You're the
our.
one who owns the yoga studios. I think you're doing fine, Mel.
Yeah, so it's whatever works for everybody's a little bit different. So we offer stuff. Yeah, I've been able to, and over the years, work into a pretty steady
Good.
morning practice, particularly, but which has been really helpful. It's helped. That's what but I didn't before yoga, and then when yoga took me to the breath, and then when I really started connecting breath to body movement, and then I really started exploring. Like, I knew my body because I've lived through my body through sports mostly and being active and doing all those things, but it's a different level of kind of relationship, when you're on the mat in that kind of way. And then when it took me to that, and then the breath just opened all these doors between mindfulness and meditation and all that. And being the kind of avid student I am, I've taken some deep dives, just curious, exploring, like, what is this? Where does it take us? What does it open the possibilities? And how do I heal myself and others through breath work and doing all those kind of things? So it's been a really powerful journey for me. All kicked off when I got a call from Emma, and she said, "Dad, I'm teaching my first class. You have to show up."
And
I was
that
like,
was
"Okay."
your first class? Was her first
That was
class?
my first, that was my first,
Oh,
yeah, yoga class. So
yeah.
I go, "Well, what do I need?" She goes, "I'll have mats. Don't worry about it." Or so, I don't know, whatever. We showed up. It's like hotter than hell, and I was like, "Wow, this is pretty cool." It was really fun. So anyway,
Yes.
ever since then, but yeah, and it's backdoored me into a whole bunch of stuff that never would have experienced without that opportunity. So it's been really beautiful that way. So, well, let's. I have a couple other questions. Emma, just cut in anytime. I know you've talked about some of the challenges. Is there anything else about? I guess I just have such a great respect for the folks who run businesses and do that, and starting a studio and surviving COVID, and all the things that you've done. Were there any other really tough challenges in opening the studio? Did it matter that you were a woman opening the studio, or any of those kind of things come into play, or was there anything else about that? And then what's been the most rewarding part of having a studio like that and being able to spend your life in this kind of community?
Um, so, opening the studio wasn't, again, it flowed. It was, I do remember when I first opened, I just taught all the classes, and there was like one day where not one student came to any of the 3 or 4 classes I was teaching a day. Right. And so then I had these little postcards that I would go to the neighborhood near it, and and hand them out if nobody came to class. And, it's always challenging at first. I will never forget the first students because, it would just be me and one student or me and two students. And so the originals, the OGs, the people that came
Yeah.
through the doors in 2009, especially 2009 and the beginning of 2010, those are people who I'll never forget, right? Now we just have so many people coming through the door. So it was scary, yeah, to build something. I had taken over a bar, but it just kind of worked. And then it was the people, the Denises, the Kelly Carpenters, the people. Those are the two teachers I've had now for the longest. The people that came to me, and came to me with their ideas, let's bring sculpt. That just it just makes it work. It's just such a blissful place to be, right? It's all bliss. It's all blissful all the time. Um, I feel supported right now. I haven't been there since the end of March. Never left. And I just opened a third one. I've never left. It's just a beautiful team of people that excel at what they do. Some of them were literally born to teach yoga. Kelly Carpenter, born to teach Pilates. Denise, Chris, both of those people were born to teach yoga. They are just unbelievable. For me, it's more like Maybelline, right? Maybe you're born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline. But it's the best thing I've ever done with my life.
All right.
So you said it's all blissful all the time. And okay, because realistically, like things aren't all blissful all the time. So
No.
what about, right? So what about Blissful Spirits makes it that way, or like the culture or the way people show up? Like explain that a little bit.
It's even, we have our stuff. So it's not always blissful, but it is always blissful, right? You can come in there, I have gone in there. I think Denise tells a story about my best friend dying 10 minutes before class. I was really out of sorts. So what do? Is luckily for me, it was a barking method class, and I can teach that with my eyes closed, backwards, forwards, inside out, because it was drilled into me, set sequence, right? There are times where it's a lot of women, right? Women don't always get along, but still we respect each other, and we give each other the space to be different, and we really accept the community, no matter who they are, where they come from, what their background is. I am a former functioning addict, so that's that's part of being in the bar business for 30 years. There's it's not the healthiest lifestyle, right? And so we just have all kinds of people, but we accept each other, and we feed off each other, and they compete, and we compete with each other, and it just makes this really neat place where people feel comfortable.
People are committed to showing up and
Right.
working on
And if you
themselves.
don't like one class, there's 30 others that you can take,
Yeah.
right? So you're going to find your blissful space somewhere. If you don't like vinyasa, take hot yoga. If you don't like
Yeah.
that teacher, there's so many good teachers. There's so many different classes to choose from. We run all day. We start at 6 at the first studio, and we go all the way to 9. There's so many classes every day. It fits everybody's schedule. Um, and then on top of it, you have 3 studios to choose from, all for one membership. So it's a really cool setup.
All right. So what's next for Blissful then?
We're going to stick with this new studio for a while, and let's see what happens with what's going on up here before I make
Yeah.
any more plans. Right?
See it through. Keep riding the wave.
Yes.
Well, I wanted to ask. So one of the things. So my first day of 200-hour teacher training, we met at a woman's house, and we packaged up toiletries and food and clothing. And then we spent the entire morning walking the streets, meeting with homeless people. And I'm totally blanking on the name of the organization, but I know it's one that you've supported for a long time.
It's a Light in
And
the Night community outreach.
Light in the Night. And so we spent that morning, and I was paired with Denise, and so they kind of gave us, I don't know, a little bit more challenging area, I think, just because she's been through it and kind of knew what she was doing and all that. So, but we had quite it was, good experiences. I've had a lot of that in my life, or that kind of work, just with my background. So, but that is one organization. And so, and I know too, and then I started asking, I go, well, what else is Melanie into? And so I've kind of heard like you're a little bit of the community Santa Claus to some extent, and that you've been very engaged in giving back to the community. So, can you tell us a little bit about, your kind of that side of Blissful Spirits and the way in which, why is giving back to the community important to you? And particularly homelessness seems to be one of your passions, but what are the other things that you're kind of involved in, and why do you do it, and why does it matter?
Well, anybody that calls me up doing a fundraiser, I'm going to donate a month to. I never say no. You're doing a fundraiser month, 2 month, depending on how much I love the fundraiser, right? Um, I never say no. I want to help everybody. I feel like it's unfortunate that the world has people that are successful that don't give back, right? Denise came to me. The first one was St. Jude's. Let's do a yogathon. St. Jude's does a yogathon. I think they continue to every year, and they do it through the whole country. And we came in second, like the first year that we ever did it. We've helped Altamira, which helps develop mentally challenged children. Um, but my main focus is a light in the night because I feel um, that homelessness is a real critical problem at this time. I'm in Colorado and Denver, and we are in a really nice area right in the Rhino District, but there's homeless everywhere. And it just breaks my heart. And I feel like people will see a dog wandering on the street. They'll grab that dog and make sure it has shelter, right? But a human being, I think that we don't care enough about the fact that people can't. Currently, it's a lot of just rent being too high, inflation, all the things going on in the country. It's not just drug addicts, right? That's the judgment. Oh, they're drug addicts. It's a lot of people with mental illness. It's a lot of vets, which I know you guys work with, right? But they're human beings. These are people. And in Albuquerque, they're taking their campgrounds and they're raising them. They give them 15 minutes notice. They claim to give more than that. They don't. And they lose all their possessions constantly if they're not taking them from each other. And it's just such a hopeless situation. And I remember being at the MVD and there was a homeless guy get there trying to get an ID, but he didn't have an address. They won't give you an ID on a PO box. You can't get a job without an ID. So it's this endless cycle where they're just being suppressed. And so it is something that's really close to my heart, allowing the people to be human. And Two Tone herself was homeless. She runs a light in the night, and but she's got a little PTSD from her life story. And so I bought her a van, right? Because her van was a 2002 piece of garbage that was terrifying to drive. And so, I had a good year. I'm like, I'll just buy you a van. So I do things for people less fortunate than me. Any chance I get, I'd help any fundraiser, any chance I get. And that's why our training starts with giving back, because it is yoga. Yoga is a connection to all people. We are not just one. What I do right now creates a wave in the universe that will affect everybody else. And so we have to really be mindful of how we treat others.
Well said. Well, excellent. Yeah. I mean, yoga, the whole thing is right, yoked, right? And
Right.
we are connected. And I think of it kind of as this notion of unity, really. And really, and the deeper you get into it, and particularly with the breath and all those kind of things, there is this sense, there's this commonality of the human experience. And particularly when you're on your yoga mat, we all look the same in down dog or, whatever. And when you realize that, and that, we all sweat the same and we all have these things, and then we leave and we think we're all these isolated little units, but yet we all want to love our families. We all want to protect our kids. We all want to, these basic kind of things. And that kind of commonality amongst us is so rich. And so I really appreciate that. So we want to do that. So I don't know if we talked to you about this, but we always do a donation to the charity of your choice each time we have a guest on the podcast. So I'm guessing you're going to go with
Yeah.
Light in the Night.
You
Okay.
guessed right. Yes.
All right. So I'll get all the info and we'll kind of take care of that as well. So we're glad to support your cause with that. And I just want you to know that you weren't with us when we did that, but your story was told. Two Tone kind of explained all that in your relationship a little bit, and it was very heartwarming. And just if people don't think they can make a difference, just consistently showing up and expressing that you care and doing what you can do means the world to people, and it's powerful. So I
Yeah.
just want I say I thank you for that, because you are kind of a prime business leader in Albuquerque. You've been around a long time, had a lot of success and all that kind of stuff, and so for you to be willing to do those kind of things, and particularly that's not a very popular group. You know what I mean? It's one thing to give money to the Boys and Girls Club, which is great. I'm not putting that down. I don't mean that, but like working with homelessness is kind of edgy because it gets political. There's a lot of different things going on with that. And so just my background, I'm a criminal defense lawyer. So I've been in and out of jails, mental health issues, all that kind of stuff, drug addicts. And so kind of used to that. So, but anyway, I just wanted to say that. So we'll be glad to donate to that. And then I don't know if there's something else you want to say on that, please finish. I don't want to cut you off.
I just want to
Are
say
you
one
good?
more thing is when I was in
Yeah.
my teacher training, um, I keep money in my car for a homeless person. I know it's kind of annoying that they're on every corner asking for money, and what are they going to do with the money that you give them, right? And a Light in the Night does not give money to homeless. They give supplies like hygiene products, clothes, tents, sleeping bags, depending upon the weather, so that they can survive, survival supplies. Um, but I still give money to a homeless person because the lady in my teacher training said, well, why wouldn't you give money to a homeless person? And, everybody assumes they're going to go buy drugs with it. And she goes, it's not your karma what they do with the money. Your karma is giving them something, and maybe they'll go buy something that saves their life, right? And so it's something that really stuck with me, like to keep
Mhm.
my karma. And what they do with theirs is their karma. It's no different than tipping a bartender that probably is going to go buy drugs with their tip, right? So it really impacted me and started me on this path of helping homeless people for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. All right. Emmy, anything else you want to?
I can't wait to come back and take a class, take Bruce's class, but also just to be back in Blissful. So it's fun how full circle this is. I always laugh at uh after that class that I took my dad to at the Rio Rancho studio. First of all, Bruce had never used props like that before, so he had like 12 bolsters. I mean, he's massive, right? So you were like, "No, no, no, we'll just get more props. We'll just get more props." And all of a sudden there was like this pillow nest around him, but it's like it's what he needed. And then we're leaving. Maybe it was when we walked in or when we were leaving, and you're like, "Oh, like, is this your boyfriend?" And I was like, "Oh." I was like, "Oh, this is my dad, Mel. This is my dad." But no, it's just been such an awesome experience. So, I know that not everyone's in New Mexico, but it is a great drive-through spot. So, if anybody ever has the chance to go and to experience it, we can't recommend it enough. So, thank you
Oh, thank you
for
guys
all
so
the
much.
yoga you've created and just this continuous cycle of, I mean, clearly there's a little bit more karmic loop coming around between all of us for the fact that Bruce is in your yoga teacher training now. So, I'm very excited to see where it takes us.
And you guys even got me rooting for San Francisco. So is that your twin brother or just your younger, older
That's my
brother?
little brother. That's my
Little
little
brother.
brother.
Yeah. I was rooting
Uh-huh.
for him all the way through the Super Bowl, and I really like Kansas City. So that was a hard route, but
That
I was
means a lot, Melanie. That means a lot.
Emma's brother. I'm rooting for San Francisco, so I rooted for him all year. I didn't know you had a brother at all. I don't think. I don't even remember it. So I got pretty excited about all that. So you guys have a really cool family. Bruce, you did a really good job.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, the most important thing I think I did is I didn't screw it up too bad. You know what I
Right?
mean? Sometimes you just got to stay out of the way and don't crash it into a rock or the shore. And I'm pretty blessed with kids who are willing to kind of run with it and take off. So it's been really, really fun that way. So, all right. Anything else you want? I don't want to. Is there anything else about yoga or the studio or just life or any pearls of wisdom that you want to share? We're called the Hidden Pearls because we believe everyone has hidden pearls within them, and so this is part of what we try to do is do that. So if there's any kind of closing, I want to give you that opportunity, but I do want to just say thank you for taking time. And just want you to know, too, the time you spent with the whole class, and I know that wasn't perfect and it was kind of tough, but it meant a lot. And so I just want you to know that. So it's great to have your presence and spirit with us when you can join us, and we'll look forward to that whenever it can happen again. And again, it's nothing. Denise has been terrific and all that stuff, so it's been really fun. So she warned us, though. She goes, if Melanie has you do a post, she goes, listen, it's like good cop, bad cop. She goes, I'm kind of the good cop. I always go, that was really nice. You might whatever. And she goes, if Melanie watches you do something, she's going to go, get your foot back. Your elbow's in the wrong spot. Move your hip, like that.
Stop
it's a little
saying gonna. Yeah.
But we already do that. For each, so Chris did that, and so did so when we're doing our cues, right? So we're doing the whole flow now. So we do like A, B, whatever, and so they'll keep track of that. So we had a one or a two gonna or a none or whatever. So that anybody that's one or lower gets an applause. So it's been pretty good. So everybody's getting the message. We're not gonna do that. So on the inhale, lift your left leg into one-legged dog.
Full sentences. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'll be back in the next training. I'm praying that he's out of the hospital and I can join you guys again.
Yeah, well, that'd be great. All right. Well, we're sure thinking about you guys. Love you very much, and so just appreciate you spending time with us. And I just want to say too, when I think about the impact of yoga studios over the years, the number of people that come in and get plugged in, either whether it's their breath, their body, or fitness, or just eating better, or and then just being around a community that cares and is trying to be together. It's a lot of people that have come through those doors. And so I just, that's pretty cool the way that little studio can impact so many things and so many people. So anyway, so well done. We're very proud of you, even though you're not really ours to be proud of, but we are anyway. So it's all really
Thank
good.
you.
So Emmy, any closing remarks, Em?
Let's be there in July. It'll be great. So
I can't wait to see you. I'm excited.
Okay.
All
right. Well, thank you, everyone. Wrapping up this episode of the Hidden Pearls podcast. And just thanks for tuning in.
Look, Em.
I know it's me. Namaste.
All right.